mode. Good afternoon, everybody. Terri Murphy here. We appreciate your being on this call today, and I am personally delighted to be your host for RISMedia's ACE webinar series. Now, today's topic is really phenomenal. It's so timely and it's critical for anyone who wants to harness the power of leads, especially those web leads. Today's program, Gain Leads Out of the Gate and Get Them in Record Time. And boy, we all know that we need help when it comes to those processes for converting more of those prospects to real profits. You know, there's lots of exciting things happening today. And as an author and a real estate coach for Workman Success Systems, the biggest challenges agents face today is ramping up their connection time and the systems we need to engage those prospects who actually raise their hands and literally ask for real estate services. Now, here's a couple of housekeeping issues. Throughout this call, we're going to be recording this great content, so you listeners will be muted. But if you have any specific questions to any of our guests or just really want some more information, look at your control panel dashboard and go to the questions area. Type in your question. And throughout the webinar, we'll be monitoring those questions during and again at the end for questions and answers. So if you have a question for either of our panelists, which is Greg or Chris, or our sponsors, Joe Sesso from Homes.com or Jonathan McGowan, just type in their name and we'll be sure to give them your questions. So take good notes and know that RISMedia will send you the link to the recording so you can go back and review. Now feel free though to be real interactive and share with us your questions and your comments. Does that work for you? And by the way, you definitely want to stay for the free gifts, because if you stick around till the end, we have some valuable information, some great downloads. And today this webinar is sponsored by Joe with Homes.com and SmartZip. Joe Sesso. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Terry. How are you?
Great. Well, we're going to hear from Joe, the national speaker for Homes.com, in just a minute, and Jonathan McGowan, VP of Sales for SmartZip. We so appreciate your support. How you doing there, Jonathan?
I'm doing great, Terry. Thanks so much for having us.
So excited about this program. And I'd like to give our listeners a brief introduction of our panelists. We'll be bringing them back a little bit later. But here's something you want to know about Greg Dallaire. It features our superstar broker who hails from chilly Green Bay, Wisconsin, home of the Green Bay Packers. Hi, Greg.
Hey, good afternoon. Excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. And Chris McNamara, co-author and presenter of Never Ending Referrals. Chris has an extraordinary background in the real estate industry and currently has co-designed a course to grow business with 12-week webinar and course workout. Welcome, Chris.
It sounds so nice when you say it. Thanks for having me.
Well, we have two great sponsors today. I'd like to introduce Mr. Joe Sesso. Joe is a renowned speaker and regional director of Homes.com and of one of RISMedia's great sponsors. And Joe has addressed more than 25,000 realtors in 49 states on the real science of real estate marketing. Joe was formerly a national speaker for Realtor.com. I bet you've heard of that. And a real agent. He's been a real agent and an investor. He authored The Foreclosure Revolution in 2008. That was an award-winning book that literally predicted the U.S. housing crash. Joe is here to share with us what Homes.com has for us today. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So yes, I actually want to point out three great reasons why agents should be on Homes.com today, and these are actually statistics that I wanted to share. The first stat, and then again we're going to talk about like ways to. This is all dedicated to leads, showing you just two ideas that I have for being able to generate and convert leads. But the first stat I kind of wanted to share with you was the fact that at Homes.com we're one of the largest real estate portals in the country. I mean, you can Google homes for sale in any given city, and we're showing up in the top searches, sometimes one, sometimes two, sometimes three in the top searches right there in Google organically, so which is great. But we focus on the very bottom of the sales funnel, people who are most buyer and seller ready. So 90% of the page views on Homes.com are consumers that are actively searching for their next home. So that's stat number one. The second stat is the fact that 3/4 of the people that are on Homes.com that are looking for properties, they're not committed to a realtor yet. So they're not, since they're not working with an agent, there's a great opportunity for lead capture with that being said. And also, since we focus on the very bottom of the sales funnel, 62% of the people on Homes.com, of buyers, they're going to be planning to buy a house within 6 months, and 91% will be buying within 12 months. So there are huge lead capture for buyers and seller opportunities on Homes.com. And I just wanted to share with you a couple things. Is my two ideas. The first one is, a couple of the issues that come up is when you're in a situation where you need to get leads, and especially if you're in a competitive lead situation where you're competing against 2 or 3 agents for the same lead. It can be hard sometimes. Maybe you're standing in line at Starbucks. Maybe you're out showing homes. Maybe you're just busy doing something, so you can't always get to the phone on time. So the first idea is called Lead Concierge. We help you work smarter, not harder, because, and just to kind of share this with you, is that when somebody does call in or responds by filling out one of those lead forms, whether you have multiple agents on there, what we're doing is we're actually intercepting it. We're actually answering it on your behalf. We're getting that lead, and we're able to contact that buyer right away. So you're a rapid responder, and speed is important. In fact, if you show the next slide, you'll see that leads are 100 times more likely to convert when they're contacted within the first 5 minutes. Now, that's leads in general. But think about it. If you're in a competitive lead situation where you have 3 or 4 agents competing for the same lead, speed is critical. So you need to be that first responder, not only within 5 minutes, probably within the first minute. And if you're with somebody or you're getting a lot of leads and you just kind of don't know if you should call right away because you're busy, that's where we come in. And just to kind of show you how the process works, the next slide kind of sums it up for you. So what happens is somebody would fill out one of the lead forms on a site like Homes.com, who offers our Local Connect product, or some of our competitor sites. They fill out that lead form. Now what happens is when they click send, the email goes right to one of our rapid responders, our qualifying team. They pick up the lead, they call on your behalf. So we're beating your competition to the call. Then we're just asking them qualifying questions to determine if it's a warm lead or not. If it's spam, if it's a junk lead, we'll put it in your CRM, but we won't contact you and show you that you have a junk lead. But when we do contact you by phone, you know that there's a good lead, there's money on the other end of that line, so that you're going to pick up that phone. If you're in line at Starbucks, you'll step out of that line because you know that there's money coming on the other line. So we'll do the handoff for you. We'll introduce you to that buyer. We'll explain which property they're looking for. We'll go over what we've talked about, and then you'll have that lead primed and ready to go. So we kind of tee them up for you, but we also beat your competition to that. And it doesn't only work with Homes.com leads. It's also with leads from your website, with Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com, and really any other source. We also give you a dedicated local number so that you can put that on all of your signage. You can put it on your marketing material. So if somebody calls, they're calling the inbound center for our lead qualifying team that's going to answer on your behalf, qualify that lead, and then hand it off to you. So that's the first idea, and that's one of the big things today that people are looking for is how do I end up beating my competition to these calls? How do I convert more leads? Speed is the first thing. But the next thing is being able to get, and by the way, this is great. It's a great slide you have up there, because on Homes.com, if you have our Lead Concierge product, this is what it's called, Lead Concierge, you'll be now labeled as a rapid responder. So the consumer will know that you're going to be calling them fast, or your assistant will be calling them back right away. And you'd be surprised how many people actually uncheck other boxes and say, well, I want to work with somebody who's going to call me back fast, because speed is extremely important on that. Now, if you're wondering, hey, I love the idea, but where can I even get more lead opportunities from? Homes.com also has a product called Local Connect, and it's a zip code-based product. We've had it out now for more than a year, and this is something that you see, of course, with Zillow and Trulia doing the same thing, Realtor.com, where you can choose your favorite zip codes and generate buyer and seller leads from it. As a matter of fact, one of the cool benefits of the Local Connect is not only will you generate buyer leads off other people's listings, but you'll also get seller leads. So when somebody wants to know what their house is worth, they fill out a CMA form. If that is in your zip code that you own, you will also get notified by that as well. So we find that most agents like working with both buyers and sellers, so we bundle the product together into one product. So that's what we got going on, some pretty hot stuff from Homes.com.
Well, that is really terrific, and you're always innovating over there. It's just a terrific opportunity. Thanks so much for sharing, and I know you're going to stick around and answer some questions as they come up. And here's another terrific RISMedia sponsor today is SmartZip. I'm happy to introduce their Vice President of Sales, Jonathan McGowan. Jonathan, tell us a little bit about SmartZip and your generous offer to our attendees for a free territory analysis.
Sure. Well, thank you, Terry, and everybody out there. You may be familiar with SmartZip. Really, what we are is we're a data-focused company. So we use 20 years of data, and we look at all these different things to determine what are people going to do in the future. Now, our product, like Homes.com, they have a fantastic buyer lead. They're also getting into seller leads. We started just focused on the seller side. So that's been our pure focus for 8 years now. And then we're actually right now just recently shifted a new product for your sphere, which is obviously a hot topic. You know, a large percentage of your business is going to come as return referral business. So we're covering that side of it now too. But fundamentally what we're doing is we're looking at this data and we're going to say, what do people in your neighborhood, people in your sphere, what do they look like? What's their background? What's going on with their home and the appreciation and all these different factors that to track an individual agent really becomes impossible at that point. And then we're going to bring the people top of mind that you should be focused on that right now would want to sell their home. And again, pure seller-focused play on this side. So if you're looking at getting more listings, if that's an area of focus, definitely something you'd at least want to know about. Now our offer today, actually, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, it's for a free territory analysis. And one thing that we see is that a lot of people are going out there and they're just picking a neighborhood. Maybe it's because they had a few listings there. Maybe it's because it's a neighborhood they like, they drove through, whatever it may be. But we want to help you use data to make sure the areas you're focused on are going to generate you the best return on investment. So we look at lots of different things like turnover rate, median home value, the accuracy of our data, or the commonality amongst the home sellers in those different areas, and you can actually use that to make sure you're really targeting all of your marketing dollars, your time and energy. When you're getting out there face-to-face, you're doing it in these areas that are going to have that right return on investment to make sure your business is growing at the rate you've set as your goal. So we want to offer that free as part of the webinar today. There's a URL on this page. I believe this is going to be at the end of the webinar as well, but write that down at smartzip.com/analysis, and we'll go ahead, you put in your zip code there. We have people that specialize in your region. We've got folks all across the U.S., and we'll connect you in with them, and they'll spend time one-on-one doing this. It's a really neat process. I think you'll find a ton of value in it. So that's our offer today.
Oh, that is just terrific. Let me tell you what I know as a coach is that we know that that consumer is driven by what they want when they want it, which is expertise. And what happens is we've got all these incredible, wonderful tools like Homes.com and what we get through our MLSs, and at the end of the day, we need to be the value interpreters for that information. And so with these kinds of tools, you are totally equipped to be an expert in your vertical, not just, you know, global, but hyper-locally, right down to the neighborhood. So that's just great information. Thank you so much. So here's a little bit about what's about to come. We are sure our attendees are really anticipating some great information from our expert. And today we have with us Greg Dallaire. Now let me tell you a little bit about Green Bay Greg. He's a broker owner of Dallaire Realty in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and he's an expert on leveraging the power of technology, that personal touch. Now he's a self-proclaimed computer nerd. Now he said that to me, and he says he's infatuated with computers, so much in fact for the last 10 years his focus has been on computers and websites and converting more web leads into sales. Now here's an important fact if you're listening to this. He's an active real estate agent and has been one since 2006. And he implements these cutting-edge technologies, which has made a real direct impact on his clients, which results in better communication and his ability to really help clients all over, because we're a global business now. And he really enjoys telling it like it is. You're going to see that it's just right to the point. He and his company were recognized nationally in 2012 by Better Homes and Gardens as the next generation brokerage. And he's doing today, he's going to be giving back to his industry by teaching us about the technology and how to best implement that technology in your businesses. So welcome, Greg.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and have an opportunity to share some of the things that have really worked well for us, you know, practical practice that we use on a consistent basis in our business. So really excited to be here.
Well, we know that from our earlier discussion, you're getting 400 to 600 leads per month, and that's just amazing. And that's not even including open houses and call-ins. You've been as high as 700. So you're obviously addicted to leads, and you've really become infatuated with those conversions. And you keep saying you don't need a ton of leads. It's about accountability. Now, how are you? Tell us a little bit about your whole mindset about this lead conversion process.
Yeah, well, it really starts with we have a team of 8 full-time agents that eat, breathe, and sleep real estate, and we have a full-time support team. We have 3 great full-time employees that really fully support our team so they can do what they do best, and that's help taking the conversion process to another level. But it really starts with our director of business development, inside sales agent on our team who handles a lot of the incoming calls and communication. But more importantly, he's scrubbing these opportunities to give opportunities to our full-time agents who are then focused on a smaller bucket of leads. So it's one thing if you're an individual agent and you're getting 25 to 30 leads a month and you're doing an okay job handling it. We've got our inside salesperson, or you can leverage a concierge type program to make sure that you're getting to those leads immediately. But once they're scrubbed by our director of business development, we hand them off to our sales team and then hold them accountable on a weekly basis. And it's been a huge thing for us. I also, not just with the conversion aspect, wanted to give some really good quick value-add tips and some examples of ways that we generate leads for, a reasonable cost on a consistent basis, some things we've done for years, and it not only impresses it actually impresses our sellers, but also generates leads for our sales team. One of them is a Facebook ad example that I'm going to share with you. We have great pictures of our properties. We've always invested in, I think over last year we spent over $25,000 just in photography alone. It's a big deal for us. It always has been since 2007. But we like leveraging Facebook. So Facebook, obviously, people probably on the call are already run Facebook ads. I'm going to show you an example of one that we ran recently. This was a property for $100,000 near Lambeau Field. This ad reached 10,730 people. It was actually liked by 91 people, and it was actually shared 34 times. Now, in addition to that, there was 42 comments. Now, everyone talks about, you need to have a Facebook page and all this stuff. I invite you to look at our Facebook page. We're consistently always marketing our properties. We're not posting, news articles very often. It's all about our listings and our clients, and we spend a lot of money to promote those properties. And I'll teach you some very quick tips and tricks that you may not be familiar with. But what I did here is we've got an image gallery, and we've got basically all the descriptions, the details. We're a boomtown team, so we have a really good CRM system that we manage our business and all of our leads funnel into. So this ad example has got all the description information. When I originally came up with this idea for this ad 2 years ago, I wanted them to not click on our website and register. I wanted to provide them with all the information, and then I would think that realistically they probably wouldn't register, and I was okay with that. I wanted to market for the sellers. But what ended up happening is we got a ton of registrations from Facebook. In Facebook, I remember a couple of years where everybody said that was a bad source. Well, it's a big portion of our closings today, and it actually outperforms pay-per-click on Google for us. So this is a good example, and like I said, we're marketing our properties. In addition, on the next slide, there's something that you may not be thinking of. So most people on the call have a website. Facebook allows you to install what's called a Facebook Pixel. It's just a code that you can put on your website on the home page and also a different page, and you can use that to track the visitors that come to your website. So imagine if you have 500 people visit your website, you have the ability to actually market to those people. If anyone's ever been on Amazon, you know what I'm talking about because you've seen, the pair of shoes that you're looking at show up, on every website or on Facebook and show up. As realtors, we can do this as well, and not many people are familiar with it or even leverage it. And it seems complex, but Facebook's very good at breaking it down, and you can Google and watch YouTube videos on how to install a Facebook Pixel. And I'll share some examples of how we leverage that. I'll share 2 really good examples.
Now, is there a charge for that? Is there a charge for that? Is there an additional charge for doing that, or is it just your web guy having to do it for you if you're still using a flip phone?
Yes, so Facebook definitely does not charge for the code. If you have a web developer, most of them are familiar with this technology and should be able to just cut and paste that code into your website. So either you're a tech person, but as far as from the Facebook end, it's completely free.
Excellent. Okay, so if we go on to the next slide, then you talk about the traffic. Tell us what that is.
Yeah, so this Facebook Pixel, once it's on your website, it'll start registering anyone that is an actual Facebook user, and you'll be able to start marketing to these people. So whenever if they visit your website, realistically it'll track it for the last 180 days, and you can consistently market to those people. So you can see on the right side it says size 15,900 people. Now those are that's not my total traffic of my website. Those are total traffic on my website that Facebook knows they're on Facebook. So what's neat is you can always run advertisements to these people. You could be running maybe a home valuation ad. You could be running, your listings to these people. We want to continually market to or remarket to our audiences, and Facebook allows you to create these custom audiences, and your marketing is going to be a lot more effective when you're consistently marketing people who are familiar with you. So it's really powerful. And then the next one is one that I know everyone's going to get a kick out of, and I set up an additional pixel for our home valuation page. So yeah, it's a smaller audience, but there was 800 people in that audience. These are people that went on our Facebook page or our home valuation page, maybe didn't fill out the full evaluation to get their thing because it is a forced registration type of environment. But let's be honest, we all want more listings. So I want to make sure that I'm top of mind in front of this 800 people in this custom audience. And it's kind of like having a billboard on Facebook versus on the road, and it's a lot more cost-effective way to do this. And I run a lot of the ads we run are between $25 to $50. So it's not like we're spending thousands. I mean, we are spending thousands of dollars with Facebook, but that's a lot of advertisements. But you can do it if you're an individual agent. You can, and you may already have. But most people have a website, and to be able to reach the audience that is already familiar with you and maybe even likes you and knows you and trusts you. So
it's sort of like a high-class even cold calling, because one of the issues that we know is that a lot of realtors should get a lead and then not have a prioritization about whether they're, how to drip on them. In other words, you don't know if they're an immediate one or not. And in this case, what you're saying is that because this is so targeted, it's hyper-local in its nature. If they ask for home valuation, we need to keep that connection going so that when they do decide, you've been the person that serviced them. So that's a terrific opportunity right there. And so when you keep in touch with them, is it just through any specific next platform?
So how we keep in touch with them is we're consistently marketing our new listings, open houses, and home valuations. So it's kind of like the rule of run 4 ads that are just more of a constant branding, and then re-push that home valuation, because really we want them to execute that so we can get them into the next sales funnel and try to get more listings.
Excellent. Okay, so you gave us some examples of what you use for text, and the first question I think our agents are going to have is, how do you get their cell number for that text? Is there a default or a lead capture on your site, or how is that working?
Yeah, so like I said, we're a boomtown team, so we utilize that, and they have a registration process. We don't necessarily know for sure that it's a landline number, and I know a lot of people are into text messaging leads, or maybe at the first phase of that. I can tell you right now, it's still a rule in our team that we need to make the initial call via the phone. A big part of the reason is we need to know if the phone number is correct or not, and a lot of times you can tell by their voicemail systems and such if the phone number is a landline or a cellular phone. However, we will make attempts. So I'll talk about our lead conversion. We have, we use the old version of Follow-Up Boss, which allows us to actually, when a new lead comes into our system, it will actually trigger a phone call into one of our Google Voice numbers. And what Google Voice allows you to do is have multiple phone numbers connected. So we can actually, when a new lead registers on our website, it'll trigger the phone call and it'll say, you have new lead from Boomtown, John Smith, press 1 to be connected. Zillow has, and I'm sure Homes.com has something relatively similar as well, but Zillow allows you to have a text-to-call alert. So when you have a new Homes.com or Zillow lead pop in, it'll actually trigger a phone call into our system. We like to keep it separate because I feel like Zillow leads or Homes.com or Realtor.com leads are a little bit different than your traditional I'm searching on your website type of lead. But so we make the initial telephone call. We do not leave voicemails. We're not a believer in that. What we do is if we can't get them on the telephone, we're immediately then sending a text message after that call. And I coach with the Workman Success Systems as well, have for over a year, and they really preach the LP Mama, which is the location, price, motivation, agent money, and then appointment type of process. Most people in our industry are familiar with these terms. So what we did is try to work a conversation flow with our text messaging to kind of follow along the similar lines. Ultimately we'll want to get them back on the telephone, but you'd be shocked at how many people will go right through LP Mama with you via text message, and even to the point where booking an appointment. We do it on a relatively consistent basis. So, but yeah, I just wanted to share kind of some of the ideas. You don't have to do it exactly like us, but this is basically LP Mama broken down into a text, and these are text templates that we have built into our website.
So there you go. It's still, and the methods and the engagements and the channels may change, but at the end of the day, it's still the same information that we need to get. And you have a unique way to increase that engagement, and I'm wondering if you'll share that with everyone.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that. So we do leverage text messaging a lot with our website, and as we talked before, I'm definitely a computer nerd. I'm always trying to find ways to improve processes and efficiencies. A lot of times you get what I call leads to go dark. Our website thankfully has a very good, these are the properties that we set up that you handpicked for you to see. And what we'll do is I use what's called a Google URL shortener, because the link at the address at the very top of this web page is extremely long. And there's a Chrome extension that you can download. It's called Google URL shortener. And what it'll do is it'll turn it into a very shortened link. And what I like to do is I like to take that link and then text message it to the lead as well. So either if I've got on the phone with them and reference that I'm going to send them listings, I really like to text message it to them. People are already using mobile devices all the time anyways, and I really want to make sure that they're getting on our website, because our websites, we can see what they do. It's like playing poker with the cards face up on the table. It's a serious investment into your business, but it's a different kind of analytics. So what I do is I copy the URL, and then I will text message that out to the prospective buyer. Now, like I said, that you can do that with a brand new lead who say, you set up what we call the e-alert, and then we can click on a link that'll bring it to what the consumer would see, and then I shorten that link down, and then I text message that to them. Or if I haven't talked to a lead in a while, or if we have a new listing that just hit the market, we'll go down and try to find people that would be a good fit for that and text message them the link. And I just want to make sure they get back on our website, because our website kind of spies on them and we can see what they do. So the next slide just shows kind of an example of how we leverage that type of text message.
Yeah, we were just going to talk about that. We got a question about Boomtown. Does that text you leads? Do you get a text
so when you
Boomtown?
Absolutely. So when you get a new registration, they actually just came out with a new app for the iPhone, and the Android is coming out shortly. And what happens there, as soon as you have a new lead register, it'll give you a push notification. What they did previously before this application was a text message, and then you click to a mobile version of the site, and it's still extremely effective.
Excellent. And we had one other quick question. Someone asked if you would repeat LP Mama. And again, it's a acronym we use so that we get all the right questions asked. Did you want to repeat that for them?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure as part of the free gift at the end, I actually provide a script, which kind of basically is LP Mama. But I'll go through the acronym again. It's location, so you're going to ask a question, what kind of areas are you interested in? The next one is price. What kind of price range are you looking? Then the next one would be motivation. What kind of time frame are you looking to be in that house? The next one is agent. Have you seen homes privately with an agent? The next one, and the next one's money. So I always ask the question, are you planning on paying cash for this home? And then I pause, because everybody wants to feel like they can pay cash for a home. And then they'll say yes or no, and say, oh, that's great. Have you taken the first step of being pre-qualified for a mortgage? And then if they say no, then we go and try to solicit that introduction to a lender. If it's a lot of times when you have a new lead, you'll get like the just browsing conversation. So you may get to the time frame and realize they're 6 months out, so you're not going to try to jam them to get an instant pre-qualification. I will tailor the conversation for what their needs are, I'll definitely position myself that I will be able to give them a great recommendation at some point, and I'll even, sometimes ask that. And then, so that was the money, and the last is the appointment. So we either try to close for buyer consultation in our office or at like Starbucks. Sometimes we'll even do our buyer presentation, buyer consultation at the actual, maybe the property that we show them. If we have a Homes.com lead, we call them right away. We know that the other competitors on Homes.com are doing what I call pop-tarting, and that's popping out of their chair and going showing a house and not be necessarily qualified. With those types of leads, you're spending a ton of money to get them. You better make sure you're getting in front of them, because everybody else that you're competing with is just going to go show them a house. I don't necessarily agree with it. However, I've adapted, and we like to win, so I think it's a good way.
Excellent. So we did ask about the conversions on the website. What about systems that you're using?
Yeah, so this is a system that can really handle the influx of all your leads. If you don't, maybe you're not at a point in your career where you could afford a Boomtown or a Commissions Inc. or a real estate webmaster site. Maybe you're not there yet, but there are more affordable options like Follow Up Boss or 5 Street, which will kind of almost automate some of that initial conversation with these leads. I still really do feel like you need to be a part of it. There's a reason why Homes.com invests a ton of money into their concierge program, or Zillow has a similar type of program. They're pounding a lot of money. There's companies coming out trying to be the call center for these leads, because they understand how important it is to get to them right away. And it's tough. I mean, I can't say we're perfect all the time, but I can tell you we're better than the majority. But
yeah, well, one of the most important things that an agent needs to understand is that timeline. I mean, obviously, if you just eat lunch, getting another one right away is not going to work. But they're going to be hungry the next day. So you literally have a conversion tracker, so you know what works and what doesn't. So the timing is right. Is that something that you want to go into next?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about that. This is something that a couple years ago, for us, we didn't really track it to the best levels. Now we become, thankfully with our coach at Workman Success, we've got a great sales tracker, so we can always clearly see where we're at, what our pendings look like, what our closed transactions, where they're coming from. But more importantly, we're actually also tracking appointments. Now these are scrubbed. We generated about 6,000 leads last year, but as far as like scrubbed opportunities, this is a small snapshot into what we do. But we want to be able to figure out people's conversion percentages, because it matters. If somebody's not coming to our weekly huddle on a Monday, they may be off of leads for that time period. We've learned that accountability is love. I don't like micromanaging people, but I really do believe you need to hold people accountable to get the results that they want on their goals. It's not just about our goals, it's about their goals, and when we know what they really want to accomplish, it's a lot easier to tailor that. But at the end of the day, I tell everyone this, it's the baseball team. Somebody's got a really great batting average, and we're tracking that batting average pretty regularly. Sometimes people get in a slump, and sometimes you get people who get hot. But if somebody's consistently converting at a good high percentage, maybe on the listing side, they're going to get that listing opportunity. Same thing with the buyer's side. But we do track on a spreadsheet and then break it down and then figure out the percentages. Now, when I tell you that one of our agents is at 30% conversion, that wouldn't make sense, because we're not taking the, we generated 400 leads in a month. These are the scrubbed conversion percentages. So got to an appointment, then we do the conversion percentages for individual agents. We do look at the overall as well, but we generate a lot of leads, and we're always focused on trying to get that conversion percentage up, because, like I said, you don't need, we have enough leads to power 15 to 20 people easily. So.
Yeah, and I just want to say that when we did our pre-interview, you talked about you can spend $1,000 a day with any lead generation, and if the phone doesn't get answered, you just said, quote, you're just burning your money. And so if you're not prepared to call instantly, which is obviously where some of the programs we've already talked about would work, then why bother, right? So
don't waste the money. A lot of people, this is a different game. I originally started my career kind of like the traditional realtor mindset of like work your sphere of influence, work, your groups and do your thing, do open houses. And I was able to build up enough clientele over time and then I started, slowly putting together a team. It was, I was a single agent at one time, and I thought I was the guy that could do everything, and I was the control freak, and now I actually found the power of having a team and having a great listings manager and a transaction manager. But you're right. This is a different game, and this is not for everyone. And I'm not telling you, because you can easily spend a ton of cash and incinerate it, just light it on fire. Even to some degree, when you're not converting at a high percentage, you always got to track your ROI. So if you're spending a lot of money currently with a lot of any of the providers, and you're not holding that money accountable, I can see clearly how many deals I close from Zillow, Homes.com. I can see how many I close from Facebook. If you don't have those things, I'd be very careful to start spending 4 figures. Yeah, maybe you can take a risk and gamble, on a little thing, but make sure you start tracking it on even just an Excel spreadsheet, knowing how many leads you got and how many appointments and how many closings.
Excellent. Well, that is just an incredible insight. And by the way, he doesn't work weekends, so he's got these processes down because he does have kids and a wife that he likes, and he likes to spend that time with them. Thank you so much. I hope you'll stick around for a few more questions. We're ready to introduce our next expert panelist, which is Chris McNamara. And Chris is really kind of fun. You're going to be able to tell from his resume. He's just a lot of fun. He's had an impressive background in our industry, learning to build his business from a myriad of different learning experiences. He includes rock climbing and fly fishing and skiing and cruise ships, which led to be a builder, which actually got him to real estate. So he learned to build homes from the ground up with different types of people in different cities, so he had to learn with different behavioral styles, and then was recruited by a team that built websites when web leads were pretty new. Now, Chris is going to bring us up to speed about being recruited to work with Keller Williams, developing their campaigns and social media strategies, which led to tech coaching with KW MAPS coaching, and today he's one of the 20 KW MAPS bold coaches in the country, is certified. Now, he's a co-author and a presenter of Never Ending Referrals. Now, that's a course that's actually designed around referral-based business, and he's about to share some excellent insights into web lead follow. Welcome, Chris.
Oh, thank you so much. I love that you use the term expert, because I always think of the guy who's got, 2 fingers on his left hand. He's an expert in fireworks. So as long as we put quotations around that, as far as somebody who's done it long enough and learned from his mistakes, that's great.
I'm told you this is going to be fun. Well, when you and I talked about what you've done and how you've done, you've had an interesting background that I think has all contributed quite heavily to what you've been able to do, and you learned really to develop campaigns that really helped you with the return on the investment in the sphere of influence sales, and got down to both the technical side and the people side. I think that's why this is going to be so valuable. And you talk about the key to lead conversions with care. Would you like to discuss that with everybody that's on the line now?
Happy to, and I just love taking a look at the stats. I'm a huge just baseball fan. I was a Red Sox fan forever, so I'm a stats monkey, and I love seeing the slides up earlier of that. And where care came from was really, it was kind of an analytic for where you are in a relationship with somebody, because again, you've got a ton of web leads that are coming through, and maybe with a great team like the ones we saw before, you have like a 5 to 10%, sometimes even 15% capture rate. So if you get 100 leads that come through, seeing 10 to 15 deals out of that, that's fantastic. It's the other 85 that are probably in that cultivation, that nurturing system, that we started to say, okay, what do we do now, and how do we keep the agent interested? It's going to be really fundamental to keep the person on the other side of the phone, the other side of the computer interested. Yet keeping the agent interested in that follow-up, there's got to be a model. There's got to be some sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 step process, like an organized sales process that will keep them in there. And so we started taking a look at some of the top communication styles. And you like acronyms as much as I love acronyms. It just helps you remember stuff easier. So we just took a look at it, 4 different categories. So the C would stand for connect. And connection is just whenever you take an unfamiliar situation and you make it familiar. It's when you almost welcome somebody in. So if I go onto the website, I'm looking for properties out there in Wisconsin, a lot of the communication will be, hey, this is Chris. Thanks for coming to my website. Just want to let you know there's a real person in here, and you were looking at these three properties. So what have I done there? I've made a connection. You were looking at properties. I know you were looking at properties. So where can we go from there? From that point of connection, you may want to connect them with something else. I've got a buyer instant notification system that's going to send you 3 properties every single week that you'll either love or you'll absolutely hate them. The ones you either want your mom to move into or you want your mother-in-law to move into. Wherever you are, I just want to get your opinion on those, and is it okay if I keep in touch with you? So that would be connection. And you'll find that some agents behaviorally, they're great at the connection part. They could walk into a room with 400, funeral directors to come out with 500 phone numbers. So let's move on to the next one. The next one is A, which is alert, and you're going to alert them to something. And it could be, a very slow alert. Hey, listen, interest rates are going to spike here in the next couple of months. Take a look at your pre-qualification. Or what if you find out that they're 12 months away from looking at anything and they're renting, they're just not really sure what to do next. I'm going to alert you to a plan that a lot of my buyers really like before they even step across the threshold of a house that's going to make you smarter and more confident than the rest of your competition. Be on the lookout for that. That'll either be in a video that I'm sending out or a white paper that I'm going to email to you, or hey, if you're okay with it, drop me, what's your best cell phone number? I'll text it to you immediately. Now, what have you just done there? You've just corroborated and gotten their best cell phone number, because if I think that you're just going to put a salesperson on the phone and ask me to repair my windshield all day long, I'm going to give you like 8675309. You can talk to Jenny all day long. I'm not giving my real phone number. So instead, I'm going to entice them with that alert. And your alerts could differ. I mean, it could be one where, hey, listen, if you don't take a look at these properties, they're going to be gone tomorrow. The whole idea, if you sleep on it, you may not sleep in it. Or the alert could be, take a look at this new development that's coming out. Sometimes new construction may be the best fit for you, especially if you're in a particular budget. So far we've got connect, we've got alert. Now, you'll find that with some leads that are coming through, or even some leads that turn out to be more suspect than prospect, you can still follow up in this relationship and you'll know where you are. I love that Greg showed the analytics page from his team members that everybody's got a different batting average. And sometimes if you've got a team where you've got different agents and they're great at connecting and they're great at alerting, they just somewhere off, somewhere during the course of time, they fall off the bandwagon, or they've got so many leads that are coming in, they're just going to go back and start cherry picking with the new leads that are coming in. Well, just provide them with 2 extra steps. One of them is going to be refer. So Terry, if you're not necessarily looking to go buy a property in the next 14 to 30 days, I'm going to refer you to my top financier or financial advisor that's going to help you lower your interest rate or raise your credit score. Since we've got time, let's make the most use of it, and I'll be with you every step of the way. You could refer them to neighborhoods. You could refer them to, like Greg's, his Facebook business site, so they can take a look at all the open houses that are coming up. And yet you'll know that if you've connected with them, you've alerted them to something, you've referred them to something now, you can go back and actually recount that with them. Hey, listen, I'm doing work here. I just want to let you know I'm not sitting here waiting with my fingers crossed, hoping that you purchase a house online. I'm doing work for you. If we're going to build trust, let's build trust the old-fashioned way by doing our job.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Because you consistently maintain the nurturing and the connection, the trust bridge is getting stronger. So we went through connection, we went through alert, you just finished refer. What's the E stand for?
E is for engage. And engagement, you think, well, shoot, it should be E-card then, because you want to engage right off the bat. Engagement's more of a promise for a further commitment. And so when you engage with somebody, this is when you basically close. You've already got 3 trial closes in there. There's a psychological trigger called small commitments, where you just get small commitments along the way, and finally when you ask for the big commitment, they've already got that history of saying yes to you. If they say no, you turn into a hostage negotiator, and you go back to connect or alert or refer until they finally feel like, okay, this is somebody I want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with, or go through a buyer presentation, or even a pre-listing presentation. And the engagements basically just can be a recollection of, hey, here are the promises I kept. I called when I said I was going to. I kept it below 5 minutes because your time's worth something and so is mine. People want to work with busy people. People also want to work with people who are productive. So it gives you that chance to go through and say, we've done all this. Does it make sense to take this to the next step? Would you be open to sitting down for a consultation where, we're going to go over LP Mama in person, and now I'm going to see exactly, what your body language is on this. We're going to meet face to face, because the end game is going to be face-to-face, not Facebook to Facebook. So let's take this somewhere. Otherwise, it's just Match.com all over again. And say you go for it, you swing for the fences, and they don't want to engage. That's all right, because now I can go back to connecting, alerting, or referring until I get to that level of trust. Because otherwise, as well as I do, people register on 7 to 9 websites when they're out there looking for property. You've got to separate yourself from the rest of the crew that's probably going to stop right around alert. If you don't show up with 2 burlap sacks full of money, at their office after alert. They know that web leads are pretty simple to come by. Not easy, they're simple to come by, and so I'll just go back and find somebody else. Instead, I'm going to go through the hard stuff. And by the time you get to engagement, you'll have a pretty good idea who that person is and whether or not they're worth your time. And so between connect, alert, refer, engage, it just gives you 4 tiers to gauge where you are in the relationship. And you can do it through, text, email, social media. You can do it through video. Twitter be a little hard because you've only got 140 characters. But yet still personality styles out there, they'll figure out a way to do it.
Yeah, but that's, I'm so glad you mentioned video specifically, because there's so many, they're looking for transparency, authenticity. They feel like they know you when they get to experience you. That's a great opportunity. But you also talk about something that we spoke about called a gap analysis. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure, and the gap analysis is, when we work with a lot of agents and they'll think about, doing something different. Oh, shoot, I went and knocked 3 doors and nobody wanted to sell their house, so I'm going to quit that. I'm going to go do something else. So the gap analysis is one where you just, you start taking a look at the actual numbers of what you did and what you were shooting for. So if I'm brand new to real estate and I hop on a plane and, fly up to North Dakota and I start door knocking and it's December, I may not see a huge amount of capture rate from that. I'm going to take a look at what previous folks have done before me and see, okay, what's their capture rate? How many doors do I actually have to knock before I get something? And then how many did I do? And basically you're just measuring that gap in between expectation and what actually showed up, right? It's almost like when you take a look at real estate agents' business cards. Does that agent actually look like the person who's in their photo, or is there a truth in marketing issue that we have there? So it's just the whole idea of taking a look at their numbers and then measuring out what the gap is, what it could be, and then putting a dollar amount to it. Because I'm sure that all the agents who are on here, at some point you've taken a look at spreadsheets, at some point you've taken a look at your database or your sphere of influence and take a look at all those names and you just got snowblind. You're thinking, all right, so at some point I've got to figure out where one commission is. And yet it's going back and putting together the long-term systems, and if you're looking at long-term systems a lot, you'll start to waver. You'll start to look for that dopamine shot of what's going to be new and exciting. The gap analysis keeps that number up front, that money, that potential of when I stick with this system, not just 3 or 4 times, like 8 or 9 or 10 times, to the point where I get good at it, that's when the money's going to start showing up. That's when the expertise is going to start showing up, and that's when the folks who are suspects will start to turn into prospects. Because it's going to be a long-term plan. When the internet came out, like what? When did we say we invented this, Terry? Back in what, 19?
Yeah, we invented this back. It was like, yeah, but actually earlier. It was actually like, like at least 94. Were you even born? Yeah. Here's the thing. We know that web leads are somewhere between 8 weeks and 3 years, maybe, from converting. What we don't have, the agents really could use is a way to incubate and nurture those leads in such time. Looks to me like you're putting together the campaign and the flow and the steps and the process so that you can incubate those leads. Because we won't, like when you started this, you talked about agents, you said keeping the vision so that they're connected to it, so that they don't lose that connection. And they're excited about staying connected. And this tells me that you've got a step-by-step situation where I know that there's value in that person if I'll stick with it. Would that be accurate?
Well, absolutely. And here's the dirty secret of a lot of these drip campaigns is when you follow them. And man, if I'm not tempted as much as everybody else is on this call, there's that whole set it and forget it idea. Yet when you go through a couple of these, systems where it goes past 5 or 6 or 7 touches, like the 8x8, and you use video and you use handwritten notes and you use text and you use email, with all those, the other dirty secret is you're getting invested in it too, as much as the other person. And if you followed up with somebody, 7 or 8 times, there's a good chance that you're going to remember who they are and what they were looking for. And yep, notes are going to be great to really click on that that recall muscle in your brain, as much as on the other side. And everybody here knows the science behind branding. It's going to be number of impressions over time. Well, the same works for you and me, Terry. So if this, the folks from Zillow, with real estate agents, their follow-up is biblical, and it's awesome. And you'll hear agent after agent say, man, after the first 2 calls, I kept saying, wow, this is really bugging me. And then they called me the 7th or 8th time, and I realized, I wish I had follow-up like these folks had follow-up. And that's really, That's what you're looking for. That's the impression. That's part of your brand. That whole the UX the user experience on the other side, where they realize that your follow-up is incredible. And when your follow-up is incredible and you do it on time, well, it's one of the best ways to build trust. You show a competency at your job higher than all the rest of your competition. You can do it the old-fashioned way of saying, hey, you play golf, I play golf, we got to work together. No, we got to golf together. As far as selling real estate, I want you to show me the best homes, keep your word, be impeccable with the information you provide, and explain it to me like I'm four, because there's so much information coming at me. I'm just going to click off your website. I'm going to go download Thor.
Yeah, there you go. So multi-channel approaches. You're suggesting that we use multi-channeled intelligent marketing with a mixture of things. So it's not just a phone call. So if you're on this call thinking, oh, I got to call these people 8 times in a row, what am I going to say? Can you just elaborate on that as we kind of wrap this up?
Oh, happy to. Multi-channel approach. Here's the example I really like to give is pay-per-click ads through Google. Now, Google could do pay-per-click ads for free. They've got a $3 million budget annually for direct mail. They send it out to small business owners so they can basically dip their toe in the water for pay-per-click ads. Now, they could advertise that stuff online. They just know how powerful it is for everybody getting a letter in the mail to separate themselves from everybody else. So we're sending follow-up emails that's fantastic, and then follow that up with a text. And maybe even include a video text in there. Even better, because now they get facial recognition, they get to get your voice inflection and 100% power of your communication. The concept of you sending out a flyer that just shows, hey, these are the 5 properties that we listed right near Lambeau Field, them seeing that you're actually willing to put 45 cents worth of effort into finding out their address and putting it out there, that holds weight with them. Putting together a thank you card, hey, thanks for showing up on time for the showings. We knocked it out of the park with those 4 properties we saw. Including a thank you note that includes the term you more than I is incredibly impactful. You'll see a lot of the big teams are going back and they're hiring that concierge service like the gentleman from Homes.com was talking about. People are looking to take it from a standard commodity up to a unique commodity where it's a tailored experience. And you can do that online. You just have to have a good balance between your direct offers and your indirect offers. And a lot of the drip campaigns, they do that. It's just sometimes we forget about it because it's really easy to set it and forget it.
So this has been great information, and I know that we probably have a couple of questions out there. One of the most important things is that, and we all, the top producers that we've interviewed over the years always say, use whatever works for you. I mean, you don't have to use everything, but you have to use something, because everything works, nothing doesn't. And so whether or not you're, having lead purchasing, or if you're using Facebook click ads or whatever, it's critical that you be consistent. You have a plan to deploy and execute, because what you heard from both of these experts is there's a system, and it's not reactive, it's responsive, and it's value laden. So it's not just badgering people, hey, are you ready? I mean, it's really clear that you have unique approaches. So are there any specific questions that we've got? I'm looking at a couple of them, and yes, this is going to be recorded. We mentioned that. Do you have any other questions, Peter, that you've seen? I'm not seeing anything that we haven't already answered. Do we have any comments from our sponsors about solutions that they'd like to offer?
Yeah, well, this is Jonathan McGowan over at SmartZip. One thing, just to reinforce, I mean, he's talking about the power of multi-channel marketing. We are a data and analytics company, and as part of our solution, we actually internally offer lots of different ways to get in front of homeowners when farming a neighborhood. And again, we're focused just on the most likely sellers. We don't send it to everybody, but we filter it down to people that have a reason to want to sell their home. They're at the right point in life, the family's growing, the equity is there, the number of years in the property. But what we've seen is we started out just doing one thing. So we started out just doing postcards. And those would go out on a regular basis, and we got some traction. It was good. But then we added digital advertising. We started doing that, and then we added Facebook advertising. We added handwritten letters that are digitally printed, that are really personalized and hyper-local to the neighborhood. And what we saw is each time we added another piece, the other pieces did better. So things aren't just independent. And it also was that brand recognition that builds over time. It took a certain period of time and a certain number of impressions before you really started getting that brand recognition in the neighborhood. But once you got there, it was extremely powerful. We found that our agents would be in the grocery store and people would walk up to them and say, hey, I see you everywhere. And they felt like they knew them. And so it was a really easy conversation now when they wanted to call somebody or when they wanted to go door knock or when they ran into people or did a special event. It wasn't cold anymore like it had been previously when they were new in that area, but they'd really warmed it up and it changed everything for them. But the power of that multi-channel marketing is huge. So integrating many pieces will have a lot of impact, positive impact on each one of them. And then what we do is we obviously do all of those different things through one platform. So finding a company, it doesn't have to be us, but somebody that can manage a lot of these different things through one place is key, because if you're dealing with 3, 4, 5 different companies, it's difficult to stay on top of them. Things can be inconsistent, and then you start throwing that money away because you're not getting that residual effect. You're not getting that build that happens over time.
Excellent. Well, we know clearly one of the takeaways we've gotten from today before we go to our giveaway is that we know that if you contact somebody, a client or prospect within 5 minutes, you're 100 times more likely to convert. You've got to be able to take those leads, and the saddest thing we do as business consultants is we find out that you have lead capture on your website, and 3 days later, by that time, they're your neighbor. So it doesn't work. You really do need to answer those leads right away. But we really appreciate everybody attending. Here's where you're going to get your free gifts. Workmansuccess.com/, and what does that say? Because I've got that. December 2016. That's pretty good. So again, workmansuccess.com/DEC2016. And I really want to thank our sponsors, both Homes.com and of course SmartZip. We so appreciate your contribution to the industry and the systems that you offer our attendees so that they can give that consumer a higher experience. And we definitely want to thank you, Greg. That was terrific. People had a couple of questions about costs, but I know that that's kind of indigenous to what you do and how you do it. I hope you stay warm up there. Are you still on, or are you muted?
Yeah, we'll definitely try to stay warm. It's about 5 degrees today.
Oh my God, that's incredible. And Chris, thank you so much for the great insights into how this multi-channel connection is going to work for everybody. In the meantime, here's your free bonus gifts. We've got free territory analysis from SmartZip. We've got Greg Dallaire's script from LP Mama. The Workman Success System Power Emails, that's 7-day indoctrination emails. This is worth the price of the ticket in your time. I mean, this is really going to change how you go about things because it gives you the systems that you need to make this work. And that, to me, that territory analysis would be great because it really gives you some extra insights into being the neighborhood expert that you need to be in. So we want to thank all of you for attending RISMedia's ACE webinar series. Gain leads, get out of the gate, and get them in record time. Have a wonderful holiday, everyone, and thanks for being a great professional and spending your time here today with us and RISMedia. Have a great holiday.